Bradley Carnell, cheers to the 2025 season and
Cheers.
your new role as the Philadelphia Union's head coach.
Yeah, thank you very much. And what a better place to, have that opportunity to have a coffee.
It's been about 2 weeks from the time that you were announced as the head coach of the Philadelphia Union before we came here to Marbella, Spain. That's a really quick turnaround time. What's fueling you right now?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it's only 2 weeks, but it feels like 3 months. I think the willingness from players, staff to turn the page and move on from what was. It's never easy, right? Change is never easy, but I've seen a real connectedness and a willingness for the players to adapt and learn. And right now we've taken the players out of their comfort zones and hopefully they'll enter into the growth zone pretty soon. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing right now, and it's a hungry group, and that's what excites me.
There's a lot to look forward to, but before we look ahead, let's look back. You come to Philadelphia with a very robust resume, not only as a player, but as a coach. When did your soccer journey begin?
As long as I can remember, I grew up in, the south of Johannesburg in South Africa, and I was a ball boy or a mascot for my family's team in the southern suburbs, and all I can ever remember is me alongside a ball, right? And then got to about the age of 8 or 9, started playing a little bit of competitive soccer, and all of a sudden, you get a feel for it, you get a desire and a passion, and my role model was John Barnes from Liverpool. So back in the days, I tried to emulate him, and after school, it didn't really do much in the afternoons, but just play soccer against the wall in my neighborhood, and that kind of, grounded me on, where I want to go and what I want to be, and the dream started very early for me. So managed to get the opportunity going through the ranks of the youth national teams in South Africa, and then captaining them up until the U23 level, representing my country at a later stage, obviously in 1997, made my debut. But yeah, been having the opportunity early on, being ready to work for these opportunities. Team sport unites, it brings people together, it carves you out in a certain way with the discipline and the rigors that life prepares you for. And I think, soccer grounded me pretty well, and was afforded the opportunity of going to places and, traveling in, now at the meantime, 3 different continents, 3 countries, 3 different cultures along the way. I've got married. My 2 daughters now were born and raised in Germany a little bit, and in South Africa, and now we're living in America. So we've kind of gone full circle around the world.
You've been traveling all over the place, but back where it started in South Africa, that's where you made your debut, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And you were really young when that happened. And there's a lot of players on this team that have and will make their debut around a similar age. Do you think that's something that can help you connect to those players and the pathway to the pros?
100%. I see when I watch the young guns go at it here, I was in their shoes. I turned pro at 16 as well, and we have a bunch of youngsters. I think it's more a protected environment, back in those days, real old school, a different mentality in terms of how you bring young people along. I think that's got a lot better in a better space, because there you had to sink or swim. I had to learn to swim very quickly. I think here it's more nurtured, more guided into terms of like holistic development of not just the player but also the person. And I've learned a lot as well, but also I see what those, like sort of the school of hard knocks got me, and the edge, and created a bit of a feisty mentality in the way I play my game or the way I live my life. So if I can find a good balance between that, especially with the amount of youth and what the club stands for with regards to development, I think that's a real good recipe for success.
You've played throughout Germany in the Bundesliga, and you've represented South Africa internationally. Among all of those different experiences that you had, is there one that's the most memorable to you?
Yeah, I mean, 1, maybe 2. I mean, there's always times where when you're representing your country on a big stage, whether it's been an Africa Cup of Nations, where all the African teams are going at it. Got to represent them, the Bafana as we called there, in Mali in 2002, and then we made the World Cup. We qualified for the World Cup in Japan and Korea. So these were 2 pinnacles of my career. When you're in the moment, you don't really feel it, that it was anything major, but when you go back and reflect and, everyone's striving to get there, and we did it, or I did it at that time. So I just took everything in my stride. For me, it was all about the very next moment, the next day, never to get too far down the line and think to, in dreamland somewhere. I was always pretty realistic about where I'm going, what I'm doing. And then also in South Africa, playing at the highest levels. In South Africa as a young teenager, I mean, I remember getting to a cup final and scoring 2 goals in a final. We win the game 2-0, and that kind of put me on the map on the South African scale. So all these little steps, right, call them incremental steps in terms of forging me as a player and ultimately as a person, as a coach nowadays as well. So yeah, some really good moments. I think there's too many to mention.
Those are moments that you can remember pretty vividly, I can imagine. Are there any intangibles from being a player that you draw on when you are in your new role as a coach?
Yeah, I think I have to give credit to my upbringing and my family, right, with morals and values, and just applying life with a certain humility and feet on the ground, never to get ahead of yourself. That's always stood me really well, and also learning to be independent. I've been in a professional environment now as a player or a coach, and as a player, you don't realize that your time is limited. You just live your life to the fullest every single day, which is great, which is good. But in terms of that day when you're 34, 38, 42, whatever it is, when you decide to hang up the boots, it's a real shell shock to now retire, and now what, right? I remember clearly I was 34, retired in South Africa, I was married, 2 kids, and you're thinking, what now? So I think, planning around the development, not just with youngsters, planning them for their careers, post-career is always a big one, right? So it's like almost I've graduated from school, now I need to go to college, but I got responsibilities, I've got commitments, I've got families. So there's always these type of wake-up calls that try and now prime me as a coach to try and help the younger group, the younger guys, not to get too distracted or, think it's only about the career while you're playing. Also just to have one eye open, in terms of progressing as a person and as an individual after your careers too.
For you, when did you decide that coaching was the next step that you wanted to take?
Yeah, it's quite a funny story. I had, like I said, I retired in 2011, I believe, and 2012, I had a couple of meetings with the University of Johannesburg as like just a football coordinator, a soccer coordinator, trying to establish, there were new programs coming up at the university levels, and they asked me to help set up that platform. And we did all that in a couple of months, and then they were like, okay, we're going to implement now, we need a coach. And the whole boardroom looked at me. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a crack. So it wasn't really my intentions as a player to really think about coaching post-career, but working with my students of 2012 to 2015 was probably one of the most enriching environments for me to be in. Now you have to think about in South Africa, some guys come from third world environments, so through the power of soccer, we gave them education to then benefit their families down the line. And actually when COVID hit in 2020, I got a whole group chain WhatsApp messages from those guys that I coached. Wow. And they'd been tracking me, and it was one of the most emotional moments I've ever seen. And they were sending me pictures of their babies and how they've got jobs now and financial security over the last couple of years through that action, just by benefiting, getting these guys in a team environment and playing soccer.
So let's flash forward to right now, in the present. We're in Marbella, Spain. New club for you. Why Philadelphia?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it's been a long summer for me as a person. And as a coach, obviously, coming into this role, there was a timing. Timing has to be one of the key factors as well. Do I feel it's the right time to get back in and start doing what I love doing? And is it the right club? So, I had some processes with different clubs, whether it be in Europe or South Africa, even here in the MLS, but also looking about what is the game model? What are the perspectives of the club? What does the club believe in? And I think over time, I know what type of club Philadelphia Union are, and I know what type of project they're trying to put out there and what type of product they're putting out there. So once I get to meet the ownership group, once I speak to Ernst and his staff, then you can kind of formulate the synergy if we're on the right page or we're not. And I think through our collaboration over the interview process, things just clicked into place, and I was like, things that I was doing intrinsically at my previous stations as a coach, it kind of prepared me well for what is expected here at the Union.
So far here, in the short time we've had together, I think it's very easy to notice that you live and breathe this sport. even at dinner, your coaches are getting together and talking really excitedly about the day and then what's to come. Is that a fair assessment of yourself and the people you brought along?
I think it's part of, like, you know, if everyone's looking at the coach to bring energy and bring life, you have to be that, right? You have to live it every single day, especially if we have a certain game model that is very proactive, very on the front foot, a lot of energy. We demand it from the players. Why wouldn't we pitch up every single day like this? So, you know, I believe we're all role models within this group. You know, we're all leaders. It just doesn't rely on me. And I hope that rubs off on people around me. And again, like I said, I've had some great mentors within this space and within how to manage people and how to manage the environment. So, yeah, for sure, you know, I'm not I strive to be perfect. There will always be certain holes or gaps, and then I expect people to fill the spaces, right? And just like the players, if one makes a mistake, one is there to cover. So, you know, this is the type of philosophy we try and instill on and off the field.
When we first met, you said this quote, and I'm not going to be able to drop it anytime soon because it was a really good one. You said you run on caffeine and octane. And then here in Spain, you took the team go-karting as a team bonding activity. Can you talk to me about how important it is for those sort of off-the-pitch connections within the team?
Yeah, I think culture building is big, right? When we expect our players in tough moments in a game to try and rely on each other, you know, what's going to be that foundational base that I know I can rely on my teammates? And it's through small team events, it's through little team building moments, whether it's a dinner, whether it's go-karting. We have a few things planned for Clearwater. I'm not going to say just yet what, but we have a couple things planned, right? But it's all to establish the basis of why am I doing what I'm doing, and what do we want to achieve out of it. So I'm a pretty competitive person. I'm a very ambitious coach, and for now, you know, for me, it's player attention 100% right now.
What is one word that you would use to describe yourself as a coach?
I don't know, relentless maybe, you know. Yeah, I'm not afraid. I'm fearless, yeah.
What's one word to describe who you are as a person off the pitch?
Grounded, I would say, yeah.
And what matters most to you when you shut the laptop, go home after a day of training?
Mistakes and accidents will always happen, but knowing that I tried my best, and I tried it being how I like to live my life, on the front foot, being brave, being bold, being courageous. And if I go down that way, then I'll sleep well at night.
So I'm sure this is the first of many coffees we'll have throughout the season, but to close us out, do you have a message for those sports-mad fans in Philadelphia who are really excited to see what the season holds?
Yeah, listen, we've been working on our signature. The signature is energy, passion, desire, and I know the fans are that way inclined as well. So if we can build a product that's not only entertaining but successful and end-to-end energy and excitement, you know, I'm hoping that this is a bond and a relationship that, you know, I can form with the fans just by showing the type of enthusiasm we bring out on the field and the type of factor, this exciting transitional game that we want to instill in the team. I think it's something to look forward to.
Cheers to that.
Thank you.